Joining me now to discuss this is Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. He serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and did tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan as an Air Force pilot. Congressman, good to see you as always. So Russia called the shoot down a, quote, act of aggression and is threatening to suspend military cooperation with the United States, if not worse. Do you think that Russia would actually actively target an American warplane?
I think it's one thing to actively target. Target means basically just painting on radar. It's kind of a show of force. The guy in the plane, our plane, would know that he's being painted at that point. And that could be, indication to attack that radar that's painting. But to attack an American military aircraft, I think Vladimir Putin is a pretty smart guy. I don't like him, but I think he's smart. And I think he knows that to attack an American warplane would basically mean the end of the Syrian Air Force and potentially could have some real damage to the Russian S-300 missile defense system that I would imagine the next reaction if we saw our aircraft attacked would be to take out their S-300 missile defense. And frankly, the Russians don't want that because it would show how ineffective the S-300 could really be against American military.
On a human level, you're a pilot. What would it be like for a U.S. pilot to fly into Syria and possibly on an assignment that would take him or her west of the Euphrates, which would then put them in direct harm's way, according to this threat from the Kremlin?
Well, it's frightening. It would be disconcerting, but this is what they train for. They train every day to fly into hostile environments where you're bombing a target with a nation that has a full integrated missile air defense system that has capable aircraft of intercept. So it's not like this is new to them. They've trained for this, but it is noteworthy that this is the first air-to-air engagement we've seen against a manned aircraft since 1999. So this is very rare, despite all the that a pilot can get. Nothing's like the real thing. So my guess is there's some nerves going into this. But again, the Russians would be really stupid and the regime would be really stupid to think that somehow engaging American military after they just bombed a ground force attacking ISIS, if they somehow think that would be smart, I would actually think that they wouldn't think that because I think they'd know better.
Congressman, the U.S., as you know, is leading the coalition air campaign in Syria. We have nearly 1,000 U.S. troops there. Are you afraid that we're headed for further military confrontation with Russia and Syria?
I don't want that without us having prior planned it, definitely not with the Russians, but I do think that in order to eliminate extremism in Syria, in order to take out ISIS, ultimately we're going to have to go after the regime, not necessarily militarily, but forcing a negotiated solution, which may take strikes to do that. But that has to be on our timetable, and as President Trump, who I think has handled this very correctly, we've reacted against Syrian regime forces a couple of times in an exclusion zone in Syria, against ground forces. We've done this against this plane, and you're not seeing a lot of bravado out of the administration. It's kind of the silent strength that says, hey, look, we're putting down red lines. If you cross these red lines, it's going to cost you. We're not seeking a confrontation, but this is our area of operation, and don't come into it and don't attack our forces.
All right, Congressman Kinzinger, stay with us. We have much more to talk about, including the White House today responding to questions about whether or not there are tapes of the president's conversations with fired FBI Director James Comey. That story next. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're back with our politics lead, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, saying today that President Trump could answer as soon as this week whether Oval Office recordings exist of conversations with fired FBI Director James Comey. Of course, we were supposed to get those last week, but moving on. Back with me is Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Congressman, the deadline to turn over all Comey memos and possible White House tapes to the House Intelligence Committee is this Friday. If that request is not granted by the White House, how would you suggest that the House Intelligence Committee proceed?
Yeah, I don't know what their options are, whether it's further subpoenas, holding somebody in contempt. I actually don't know what they can do, but I hope they get the information that they requested. As I've said, I put faith into the Senate and the House Intelligence Committee in the investigation. Now with Robert Mueller and his investigation, I think through these processes we're going to get to the bottom of what did or didn't happen. But I think all that information needs turned over. From the tapes perspective, President Trump never said there were tapes. He said Comey better hope there's no tapes. I think we need an answer to whether or not there's tapes. I mean, it's another example of how a tweet in the morning can drag something into a whole different area and can drag something out. So I think the American people, right, left, in between, everywhere else, just need answers to what happened, what's going on, and that's all we're asking.
Speaking of tweets, President Trump has been pretty critical not only of James Comey, but also in recent days of Robert Mueller, who's heading the investigation. He's the special counsel. Also, presumably taking aim at the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. What do you make of this all?
So I don't like this. I don't like any attempts to discredit people, especially through Twitter. I'm uncomfortable with that. I think it's wrong. I think Robert Mueller is a great American that served his country very well and is going to continue to serve his country in this unfortunate capacity. I think President Trump needs to remember other presidents have survived special counsels. When you think about President Clinton's situation, what he did very well was instead of focusing on his investigation against him, he kept repeating that he has work to do for the American people and basically turned public opinion in that process. I think President Trump would be well served right now to be focusing on the agenda that we have as Republicans in the House, which I think is very aggressive and good for the economy, to focus on his successes on foreign policy and let the investigation work its way, and then we'd have other things to talk about than this. But when you tweet about it every morning, this is the front of every newspaper and every 24-hour news cycle because it's just natural that it would be.
What did you make of the president's attorney, Jay Sekulow, going on the Sunday shows, including State of the Union yesterday, and basically contradicting the president? The president had said that he was under investigation and took a slam at Rosenstein. And then Sekulow, his lawyer, came on and said he's not under investigation. I mean, I don't know what the American people are supposed to think.
So this is another concern I have. Truth matters, and lately, on both sides of the aisle, frankly, there's been this idea that truth only matters if it benefits your side, if it makes your side look good. I think when we talk about the shooting and the political tone, some of this is the case. You only look at things that comport with your worldview. I think in this case, do we know whether the president's under investigation or not? I haven't heard, so I can't answer that. The president said he is, but then when his folks come out and say the opposite, I would, again, if I was giving advice to the White House right now, it's just get your message together. There may be competing interests in the White House. There are competing interests in every White House. But get your message together and present a unified front and always pivot to saying what you want to do for the American people. It's beneficial for the American people. It's beneficial for Republicans and would ultimately be beneficial for President Trump.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, thank you.